Today we're talking about Hermeticism and Hermetic philosophy. And this is actually a pretty interesting topic. Hermetism. Hermes Trimegistus. What's this all about? Many of us have read the Kybalion, perhaps. That's often many people's first brush with Hermetic philosophy. So Hermeticism. I'm about to start reading through the Corpus Hermeticum in these videos. So normally in the mornings I like to do my reading, and then I do like my talk in the evening. But today we're mixing it up a little bit. Today we're talking about Hermeticism, y'all. So Hermetic philosophy. This form and most people think that Europe was just Christian. But there was an underground occult movement that actually survived for 2,000 years up till today. Let's not try to open up too many cans of worms here. Let's just say this. Hermetic philosophy. This formed kind of an underground occult movement. You had the church, the official church, and then you had the alchemical and magical and Kabbalistic and Hermetic kind of occult philosophy, kind of a forbidden knowledge. And this all ties around a mercurial figure. So all throughout Christian Europe, there was this mercurial figure of Hermes, this bestower of hidden knowledge. Hermes Trimegistus. It's a perpetuation of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes that actually carried on into Renaissance Europe, in the sense that this was a figure of hidden knowledge, of wisdom. Many of us have heard people say, as above, so below, or as below, so above. This comes from the Emerald Tablet ascribed to Hermes Trimegistus. Okay, so we're going to be going into this. Think of it this way. Empires fell, but the Corpus Hermeticum survived. The Hermetic texts. These things survived into modern times, and the other Hermetic fragments as well, and the Asclepius. These things survived. The Asclepius was a text that survived into the Middle Ages in Europe. The Asclepius talked about how the Egyptians imbued their statues of their gods with powers of the deity. How the Egyptians were able to call down the gods into their statues. Which is actually pretty interesting, because if you look today at some modern traditions, like the eye-opening ceremonies in Taoism and Buddhism, the eye-openings, even today in some forms of Buddhism and Tao, as a totally different religion, totally different time period. I'm just saying that there are examples of traditions where they will try to imbue the statues with power, so that the statue is more than just a representation. Somehow the deity or spirit imbues the spirit. Okay, so you see this in a lot of traditions, imbuing a statue with power. The Asclepius talks about how the Egyptians use stones and herbs and oils and timing as a way to draw down the powers of the gods into the statues. Now, this would be fundamental to the idea of talismans, that you can fit a substance, whether it be a metal or a stone or whatever it may be. Maybe you etch symbols of the planet because you're trying to call down a planetary astrological force, as an example. You may make an amulet of Jupiter on an amulet of Jupiter on lapis lazuli, a stone associated with Jupiter at an astrological moment of Jupiter, and with symbols of Jupiter. You've created a fit matter to now draw down, to now call down the spiritual forces that the thing embodies. So a talisman is, well, a lot like in modern magic, we think of the pentacle as materialization, concretization. You're taking subtle forces and you're making them concrete. You're trying to bring down into the realm of Malkut. So in that way, you could see this concept. None of the things I'm talking about have to do with classical Hermetism. This is all like modern occult terminology I'm using, but I'm saying that this idea of calling the deities into your statues that we have in the Asclepius, which is a 2,000-year-old Hermetic text, this would survive in the Middle Ages. And of course you have, Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. his whole thing is based on as above, so below, that the three worlds interact. So, as above, so below. This whole idea is found in, in Agrippa. So, this created kind of an underground occult movement in Europe. Yes, there was the church. The Catholic Church was the church throughout much of... but then you also had alchemists and magicians and people that were delving into the occult studies. And they had a figure who was a mercurial figure. This mercurial, yes, he was seen as a wise man from the past, but just the same, we had this figure of Mercury, Mercury, the enlightener, the giver of knowledge, the giver of hidden wisdom. This mercurial figure has continued on up to today. And some would say that this mercurial figure has continued in other forms. Continued in other forms, another kind of Hermes or mercurial figure that embodies masculine, feminine, hot and cold, light and dark, transcends duality, and is a giver of knowledge. So this mercurial figure may change names and forms, but it may be possible that this, well, I'll stop that there. So the Hermetic, when people hear about Hermeticism, they think of the Rosicrucians, and they think of Kabbalah, and they think of alchemy. Now, there's a difference between Hermeticism and Hermetism. Hermetism, the original Hermetic philosophy, is around 2,000 years old. It dates back to Egypt, in which you had the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek god Hermes. So what happened is when Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, they noticed a lot of similarities between the Egyptian deities and their own deities. So, for example, Osiris and Hades combined to become Serapis. Okay, as an example, you had a fusion of cultures. The Ptolemies, you had this period. We have the Greek magical papyri. I have my Greek magical papyri over there. It's spells from 2,000 years ago. So around this period, this fusion of cultures. And for the first time, people had what was called religious shopping. Back in ancient times, you basically were whatever religion of your nation. So you were born an Egyptian, you worshiped the Egyptian gods. You were born in China, you worshiped Chinese deities. You were born in Canaan, you worshiped Canaanite deities. That's just how it went back in the day. With Rome conquering the known world at the time, you had the Pax Romana. You had, for the first time, religious shopping. People were, for the first time, able to say, these gods are deeper than those gods. I like this philosophy better than that one. For the first time, people can go across the street and get initiated into the cult of Isis, and then go across the street over there and learn from the Platonists. And then they might go get initiated into the mysteries of, the Eleusinian mysteries. So this type of religious shopping, and probably a lot of cross-fertilization, because the heads in some cults were probably the heads in other cults, and so some of their religious mysteries probably overlapped. But whatever these things were, they were secret. A lot of it was secret. We don't know what went down in the secret initiations of the Eleusinian mysteries. All we know is that these mystery schools, and I'm not calling Hermetism that, but I'm saying these different initiatic societies, whether you were getting initiated into Isis and her mysteries or Osiris, 2,000 years ago in Rome, you had what was a bunch of secret societies, more or less. Brotherhoods and sisterhoods, sororities and fraternities, where you had secret modes of recognition, you had passwords, you were initiated into secret knowledge. And this is how it was in ancient Rome. And then, of course, Christianity took over, and guess what happened for the next 2,000 years? You had underground Hermetic movements that were secretive. And then, of course, you have your modern secret societies. And some would say that the mercurial, anyways, we're going back to the classical stuff. We're going to stay away from all the rabbit holes and all that. Let's stick to the topic, y'all. So Hermetism. I'm about to start reading the Corpus Hermeticum. Many of us are familiar with the Kybalion. The Kybalion is mostly just a bunch of new thought repackaged as Hermeticism, published in the 1900s. And, it's a good entry point for many people. Nothing wrong with the book, but it's not classical Hermetism, and it should not represent the philosophy. That is mostly new thought, so it doesn't represent the movement. It's useful for many people, but here we're not talking about the Kybalion. Here we're talking about classical Hermetism. So I'm about to start doing some readings. We're going to read through the Corpus Hermeticum. The Corpus Hermeticum, as I said, empires have fallen. The Corpus Hermeticum survives. The Corpus Hermeticum, you could look at it as the Hermetic Bible. I hate to put it that way, because really it's not just a series of beliefs, and a lot of the texts contradict the other ones. But this is the Hermetic body of writings. The Corpus Hermeticum has 17 treatises, and there's much more. There's the fragments of Stobaeus, there's a whole bunch of different stuff to go into, but we're going to read the 17 treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum. So we're going to be delving into that. Treatise 1 actually talks about the fall of the soul. Now, this is Greco-Egyptian, pagan, but it talks about the fall of the soul. Sounds similar in some ways to the story of the garden. In this fall. The fall of man, according to the Corpus Hermeticum, it gives a little bit of a different view. And this, in the Corpus Hermeticum, in the Pymander, man and the universe, man was the child of God. There is no male and female at this point. That gets explained later. But for the symbolism, you have God, man, and the universe, mankind. Man was a divine being. We look down into the works of the workman, the demiurge, our brother. We looked at the workman's work, and we wanted to peer down into the cosmos. Looking down into the cosmos, the divine man bent down through the 7 spheres of the planets, and each of the 7 planets loved man and gave him or her a combination of their own energies. So as we peered down through Saturn gave us, you could look at them as layers of an aura. You could look at them as layers of an egg or an onion. We received Saturn. We received Jupiter and ambition. We received Mars and our aggression. We received the sun and our pride, and good qualities too. And we received from Venus our desires. We fell through Mercury, and we got our logic and our thoughts. We fell through the moon and peering into the earth. This is a symbolic story, by the way. We're not taking this literally. This is a myth that tells a sacred story of how man fell from a divine state. We peered down into nature. So we received all the powers of the 7 governors of the world, whose turning they call fate, 7 astrological planets. So this is an astrological descent and ascent. As you see in these different texts, you'll see like ascent could be an astrological movement up the planets, which also ties into modern. We've drawn that. We've drawn from that the ascent of the soul and the modern occult movements of moving, starting at Malkuth and moving up through the spheres. Okay. But anyways, or even Dante's Divine Comedy, none of these things have anything to do with Hermeticism or Hermetism. I'm just saying that this idea of falling through the 7 spheres and ascending through the rungs of the ladder, which is the solar system, is something found in Macrobius, it's found in the Corpus Hermeticum, it's found in the Discourse on the 8th and 9th, it's found in the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, it's found in many different texts. But anyways, we saw our reflection in the waters of nature, and seeing our reflection, we fell in love with our image. We mistook the image first. So we fell in love with our own reflection, like the story of Narcissus. And nature, who fell in love with the divine man, wrapped herself around him. And so human beings were born with the divine spark within us that is immortal and eternal and above the cosmos itself. And yet, because of our earthly frame, mortal. Now, we have our ascent of the soul, the purification and ascent of the soul, and the union, the deification of the soul. So this is interesting. We're kind of stepping over the last 2,000 years. Let's go back. Let's dip our foot over and dip our toes in 2,000 years ago in Egypt and see what they had to say about the purification and salvation of the soul and our own enlightenment, our own reaching our own godhood through ascending to the stars. So we're going to be reading through the Corpus Hermeticum, y'all. This is something that I'm really excited to go through. We'll be working through all 17 treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum. And, of course, we're going to continue our tarot course and series. That's something that we're going to work through. We're gonna go deeper and deeper and deeper into these topics. So that's just a brief look at Hermetism. I'm gonna go deeper into the topic as I continue to read the Corpus Hermeticum. We're gonna continue to go deeper into the topics. If people have any questions, they could put them in the comments. I could try to answer. And also, I encourage people, once you watch this video, to go read up on it, read some articles, listen to some things. Copenhagen's Corpus Hermeticum would be good to buy. I'm gonna actually leave a link if people want to buy the Corpus Hermeticum, this really good edition, and we could read along. I'm gonna be reading the public domain because it's public domain though. I'm gonna be doing the GRS Mead just because it's in the public domain, and I won't. Be good for my channel. This is the one that I'm going to be reading by GRS Mead. And anyways, we're going to be working through this. Yeah, there's Hermes. There's old Hermes. Got a smile on his face, We're going to be working through this, y'all. And so this continued to be like hidden knowledge, It had a one God or deity, and yet you had many deities. It's like this all goes back to the one, or the monad. And you also had God, the universe, and human and mankind. Man is a reflection of the universe. In fact, man is a microcosm of the universe, and the universe is a macrocosm of man. And both man and the universe are a reflection of God. Therefore, if you want to know God, look at the universe, so that ancient sages would study the stars and map out the stars to catch a glimpse into the mind of God. Even the path that a salmon takes in a river could be taken as a glimpse into the mind of God. So looking at nature, contemplating nature's cycles. So nature is a reflection of the divine. Nature is a reflection of man. Man himself or herself, human beings, we also are a perfect microcosm, a reflection of nature. We unite with the divine. We unite the three. We unite man with the cosmos and with the divine. We ascend through the 7 rungs of the ladder, coming out to the 8th and the 9th, uniting with God. So you have alchemy, astrology, and magic. And these 3 are often seen as cousins. Now you need alchemy. You need astrology for some forms of alchemy. Just simple plant tincture, elixirs or spagyrics. You need to wait till the planetary day and hour. It's an elixir of this plant. Okay, so alchemy and astrology and magic. So a lot of these things overlap. It all goes back to kind of how they saw it. The knowledge of the stars, the knowledge of our own constitution, the knowledge of nature and theology and of the universe, all of this is about knowledge, and knowledge deifies. But it's not just logical, rational knowledge. In Greek, that's called episteme. Episteme, where you get the word epistemology. Episteme is the type of knowledge that's book learning. And gnosis is a direct knowledge by direct experience. Direct experience is gnosis, which is different from episteme, knowledge. Kind of similar like in Spanish, the difference between saber and conocer. Saber is a type of knowledge where you can logically think about something. Conocer is by direct experience. It's a similar thing between, like in the Hebrew, dot is a direct knowledge by experience. You know by experiencing, and that experience is salvific. You're not the same as you were before. We're not in Kansas anymore, y'all. So we're going to go deeper into this, and we're going to even go into like talismans and go into some of the magical stuff, but we're going to be working through the Corpus Hermeticum, so that's a good way to start the day, y'all. We got more stuff coming on, so that's just getting the day started, and I will see y'all in the next video.